The only thing that we're interested in is putting money in your wallet. If you want to bet the fights, if you want to have a little bit of action, you are in the right place. With my partner, Ian Parker, I am Brett Okamoto.
We're ready to rock between our parlays, our props, our straight picks. It's time to make money. Let's go.
That's right, guys. It is your favorite time of the week because it is time for UFC Best Bets. We're looking at a UFC fight night from inside the UFC's Apex in Las Vegas on Saturday. We're in the main event. We'll see a light heavyweight fight between Nikita Krylov and Ryan Spann. Big one for the 205-pound division, and it's always a big one for myself and Ian Parker because we are talking about this from a gambling perspective. We're putting our money where our mouths are, and we are trying to get you a little bit of money as you watch these fights on Saturday. Ian, how you feeling over there in Florida? And man, last week, Aaron Blanchfield and Jessica Andrade, that was a heck of a main event. We'll be back in the UFC Apex this week. What did you think about last week's main event, and then how you feeling about going into this one?
You know, last week went the exact opposite of what I thought was going to happen. I did feel that Andrade's experience, and just fighting Lauren Murphy would have really been helpful. But Aaron Blanchfield, to her nickname, Cold-Blooded, really is exactly what it sounds like. Looking at the recap here, not a great week, 2-3, not good enough for what I am expected to do and what I'm going to do this week. Zach Palga inside the distance. I didn't expect him to fight so conservatively, just want to get the win over someone in Jordan Wright, who usually does not get it right. We lost with Andrade. Knight Prachnio might have been lock of the year. Thank you for Knight's leg not folding in half, and thank you for Prachnio for not trying to get a finish. Sadikov we hit. And AJ Fletcher, the one thing we didn't want him to win by, he did with sub, so we just missed on that. And we missed on the parlay. So we're going to get it back this week.
Was it, in addition to obviously wanting to hit every single pick, we also want to learn from our mistakes. This one to me, man, and I want to preface this by saying, because it's always a little bit tricky when you say something like this. Full credit to Erin Blanchfield. This woman is a buzzsaw at age 23. She is going to be a staple in this division for a year to come. I also thought that maybe Jessica Andrade on short notice, she was swinging for the fences, and then I just didn't think that was the most, when you compare it to how calculated and how smart she was against Lauren Murphy, I thought that maybe she came in feeling like she had nothing to lose and fought that way, fought super aggressive, but fought with her chin up a little bit. It just wasn't completely the Jessica Andrade that we were used to seeing. Maybe we underestimated what that short notice was going to do for Jessica Andrade. Maybe, it's tough. Sometimes those short notice ones are difficult to handicap. But in any event, we move on to this Saturday, UFC Fight Night. You can catch the main card on ESPN Plus. It happens at 7 Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Again, headlined by that light heavyweight bout, Nikita Krylov, Ryan Spann. You got numbers 6 and 8 at the top of the division. And it's a 6-fight main card and some good fights here to look at. Andre Muniz, he has had a good career in the UFC thus far. He's taken on Brendan Allen. Tatiana Suarez coming back for the first time in years as a big favorite in a new weight class, taking on Montana De La Rosa. So we will get to a lot of these different fights in full breakdowns and obviously all of Ian's picks and leans across the main card. But let's, of course, start with this main event. Ryan Spann, man, I mean, he's been a guy who has been coming in as an underdog a lot, and he has performed in that underdog space. He has cashed as an underdog. I think the problem with Spann is that when he has not cashed, he has not looked good at all, man. He's been finished in the first round by Johnny Walker, finished in the first round by Anthony Smith. So I guess it's kind of still hard to know what to do with Ryan Spann because he has cashed as an underdog. He has exceeded expectations, but then when he's lost in pretty spectacular fashion. He is an underdog here once again, plus 145 against Nick Krylov at minus 170. What do you think of this main event, Ian?
This is an interesting one for me because Ryan Spann did something that, I guess we were more unsure of Dominic Reyes in that last fight. Reyes coming back. He has not looked himself since the John Jones fight. And Ryan Spann took advantage, but I can't gauge yet what Ryan Spann really is capable of, landing a jab, getting a quick knockout when, to your point, he's been so up and down in his career. He's been so inconsistent. He also had a split decision win over Sam Alvey. So for me, until I really see Ryan Spann get comfortable in his own skin, understand who he is as a fighter, I can't side with him yet, especially against a guy in Nikita Krylov who is experienced, well-rounded, and has literally fought the best in the division, win or lose. Krylov also doesn't really make mistakes. He's a high IQ fighter. He doesn't take too many risks here. And with Ryan Spann, This is someone who's supposed to be a wrestler. He doesn't do it. He relies on his power. Krylov can grapple. He's got submissions. He also has knockout power himself. I think this is going to be a very interesting litmus test for both guys. If Krylov could put Spann away, you got to look at Krylov as a serious guy moving up. And if Spann wins, then maybe he's telling the truth. Maybe he is finally training and taking this seriously, and he's a force to be reckoned with. But for me, I'm going to Nikita Krylov until Spann proves to me that he could fight with consistency.
Okay, so that is our lean on the side. How about method of victory or even the total here? You know, a lot of firepower from Spann early on. This is a 5-round fight, though, so you wonder how he's going to pace himself. Nikita Krylov, he's shown throughout his career a little bit of both, man. I mean, this guy can finish fights in multiple ways, but he does go to decision sometimes. When you look at the method of victory odds here, what stands out to you, Ian, in terms of some potential value?
Well, look, if you're on Ryan Spann's side, you're going to have to assume he wins this by finish at plus 165, which is a good number. But if you're going to go with Krylov, I also think the win by finish is a good number here. Spann is not known for his gas tank. To your point again, Krylov can win this by decision. However, I think if he drags Spann into deep waters, I think by the 3rd round, Spann's tired. That's when Krylov could take his back and probably sink in like a rare naked choke or finish in a dominant position.
Yeah, no, I like the breakdowns here. Some leans potentially, and we'll wait to see what your best bets are, and then you can explain those further. But this is a fight in which I feel like if we could see it 10 times, it could have a couple different outcomes here. It's not really one that leans itself hard into one direction. So some good analysis there in the main event. Let's go to the co-main event. It's a middleweight fight between, again, Andre Muniz versus Brendan Allen. Muniz has done very well thus far in the UFC. You look at the competition, there's some big names there, but some names that are no longer in the active sport of mixed martial arts. You've got a win over Jacare. You've got a win over Uriah Hall. Those are nice wins, but you just wonder how much value to put on him. Meanwhile, Brendan Allen, he's been around for a minute. He comes in at plus 180. Muniz, minus 220. How do you go about breaking down this fight, Ian?
Well, there's 2 ways I look at this. Number one, I don't really understand why Brendan Allen was pushing for this fight after getting off a nice couple of wins. To me, this is a dangerous opponent for him. You know, usually with Brendan Allen, where he is in the rankings, he's the better grappler, better jiu-jitsu artist, and his striking sometimes a little inconsistent here. We've seen him get knocked out. We've seen him get a little bit better. Can't really look at the Sam Alvey fight because Sam Alvey, well, he's Sam Alvey to lean on our joke of our quotes here. Brendan Allen sometimes just kind of gets out of his own head. He's way too accepting fighting off his back in jiu-jitsu. He's just too confident. And he's going against a guy in Andre Muniz, which I truly believe at some point will be a champion in this division. We said it against Anders. We said it against Jacare and against Hall. This guy just keeps getting better and better. If his striking even catches up to 30% of those jiu-jitsu skills, this division is going to be put on notice. I think this is a guy who is a student of the sport, no ego, is climbing the ladder the right way. And this is a guy who you're going to see, I think he's going to finish Brendan Allen. And it doesn't mean that Brendan Allen is going to go in there and just get it run through. But Muniz, I think, is the real deal. We're going to see it on Saturday night.
Very good point, man. A lot of times, you know, there's different ways of looking at a fight. And one of them, of course, is just stylistically, what does the matchup play out? And you're right. And that usually we think of when Brendan Allen is walking in the octagon, more than likely he has a little bit of an advantage in the grappling realm. In this case, might not be that way. So let's go ahead and run through. I mentioned, again, 6 fights on this main card. Briefly go through, what are your other picks for this 6-fight main card on ESPN+.
Augusto Sakai versus Dontel Mays. I can't believe I'm saying this based off the last fight, but I'll save the story for later. We're going to go with Dontel Mays. I'm going to take Mike Mallet, and I'm going to also take Trevor Peek inside the distance. And Brett, last but not least, Tatiana Suarez versus Montella De La Rosa. How do you not talk about Tatiana Suarez without... I'm just kidding. I'm not going to do that to you this week. But Tatiana Suarez, I am really excited about her return. 1,300 plus days. This is someone who is so dominant when she was on her way up. She's had a little bit of bad luck with the injuries, but 5-0 in the UFC. Favorite of minus 500 or higher in her last 3 fights. And in 2019, she was the number 2 strawweight contender. This is someone who is just a rarity the way she fights. Her wrestling is so dominant. She keeps getting better. She's a physical specimen, and she's able to use that athleticism to just control her opponents. For this fight, this is the perfect tailor-made matchup for her to come in, get a comfortable win, probably get it done inside the distance. She is fighting someone who is a jiu-jitsu fighter, comfortable off her back, but will not be a threat of any submissions. Physically, De La Rosa won't be stronger, won't be the better striker. And I'm really curious to see how Suarez has evolved with her time off, with her striking. Her boyfriend, Patchy Mix, is no slouch with wrestling, so she's just going to keep building on that. I think she goes in here, goes with her bread and butter, takes De La Rosa down, and gets it done inside the distance. and we're going to say, welcome back, Tatiana Suarez, future champion in the making.
Ooh, future champion in the making. Tatiana Suarez, you're right, coming back as a flyweight. Now, she says she wants to go back to strawweight eventually. I got to ask you, man, coming off of last weekend, Tatiana Suarez versus Erin Blanchfield, what is the betting line on that fight?
Whew. You know what? That's a really good question. I think it'd probably be closer to minus 130. I think they may even make Tatiana Suarez the favorite just because of her wrestling. I would rather see it more of a minus 115 across the board, because I think Suarez is going to be the better wrestler against anybody in the division. I don't care what anyone else is doing. But what Blanchfield showed, which is interesting to me, is the striking. She was taking Andrade's punches, and her combos looked pretty good. So that's an interesting fight that, listen to you over there, Mr. Matchmaker. That one threw me off. I like that a lot. Well done.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Obviously, we have to see how Suarez looks when she returns. But if she looks like she has over the course of her career, she would absolutely be a favorite over Erin Blanchfield. And that's nothing against Blanchfield, but just that dominant wrestling. We see it with the Habib, the Islam. When you have a dominant wrestler like that, that's going to be your betting favorite. But what a fight that would be. And who knows? We may get that a little bit down the road. Okay, we've talked out the main card. Let's get you all of your prelim picks, Mr. Parker. Where are we going during the prelims on this ESPN Plus card?
I'm going with the underdog here, Jasmine. I think she's a little bit more well-rounded. She's fought in the UFC now with the Contender Series. Her opponent comes in as more of a striker. I think she's more well-rounded. She gets it done. This fight's interesting. If Levitt gets this fight to the floor, it's his. If Martinez can keep it standing, he gets the knockout win, or at least can box him up. Good takedown defense. I'm going him. I absolutely love Charles Johnson in this fight. I know his last couple of fights have been He fought Jimmy Flick off of retirement. But Ode Osborne, if he doesn't get the knockout, he gasses and he doesn't do well with the wrestling. Give me Joe Selecki and Carl Dean over 1.5. Alves versus Aliv. Aliv is a scary guy. I think the wrestling is going to work, and Alves' lack of fight IQ is going to play in our favor. Haley Cowan versus Alan Perez. I'm going with Cowan here as the better athlete. And Jose Johnson versus Garrett Armfield. Give me Armfield at minus 165.
All right, man. I feel like all year we have either hit the parlay or been very, very close to hitting the parlay. The parlays have been... I've had good vibes on the parlays all 2023, so let's hit another one this weekend. Where are we going for Parker's parlay?
Yeah, this one's not going to be the craziest of odds here, but I'm going to go with Joe Selecki. Deaton's taking this fight on short notice. Selecki has showed us he makes good decisions. His stand-up's getting better, but he is very, very good on the ground. Now, Tatiana Suarez is minus 900. I just don't see how she loses here, so whatever value that gives me, I'm going to throw her in there. Mike Mallet, this guy looked incredible in his last fight. I think he does it again, and I'm riding that Andre Muniz train until it stops. We're going to be at plus 186 on that parlay.
All right, so there's the parlay for Saturday. How about your best bets, Mr. Parker?
All right, this week we are getting it done. I am turning this ship around immediately. Let's start off with Nikita Krylov in the main event. Ryan Spann, again, until he proves consistency, I just think that Krylov makes good decisions, high IQ, and is better everywhere with that cardio. We're going to take him. Trevor Peek, originally minus 190, but now over minus 200. So I'm going to take him inside the distance. His opponents, 2 fights in the UFC, lost, both by finish. I'm going with Aliyev over Alves. I don't love always taking guys off the Contender Series, but this guy reminds me a little bit of Khabib, and Alves does not make smart decisions. Dontel Mays, I said after the fight where he lost to Handy, I would never do it again. But Sakai is coming off of 4 knockout losses. Mays has been training with John Jones. Bigger, better athlete. If he can take this fight to the ground, I think he can get it done. And he actually apologized to me in person for losing. I said, never apologize. He said, I owe you one. This one's it. Last but not least, give me Charles Johnson over Ode Osborne as our last best bet.
All right. So Dontel Mays literally telling us he owes us one on this show, so we're counting on him this weekend. So there's our parlay. There are our best bets. Last week you went a little ham on the long shot parlay. I can't remember what the odds were on those things, but it was like over 1,000 to 1. What are we going here as a follow-up with the long shot parlay?
Well, we're going a little less ham this week, as the kids call it these days. We're going to go Dontel Mays. We're going to go Jasmine Jazavikis. We're going to go Tatiana Suarez inside the distance. We're going to go Aliyev also inside the distance. I just think if he gets Alves tired, he can take the bag and get the choke. And I'm going Andre Muniz by submission. So this number is still a very strong number. It's not as actually 1,600 to 1 odds, but this one would be quite the payout if we hit this as well.
All right, so there you go. Business is handled. We got the best bets, parlay, long shot parlay. We've gone through the entire card. Thank you so much for watching. Enjoy the fights this weekend. Me and Ian will be here in Vegas the first week of March for the UFC 285. So make sure you tune into that show. And in the meantime, kids, remember, you can't talk about Tatiana Suarez without talking about Tatiana Suarez. Enjoy the fights.